doesn't work. So welcome to the May 9th, 2015 Tolkien Society meeting. Waiting for folks to show up. They're running a few minutes late, and I was just trying to get a few things working here. So we'll be starting in just a few minutes. We'll start with going through the notes on tolkienscholars.org. Doesn't cooperate. Apologies for the slow start here. We're getting there. Chris, Richard, and Brian are on their way. They're just running late. I'm running late on the audio setup. Trying a more laid-back layout this time than previous efforts. We'll see how it goes. That's the way to treat expensive electronic equipment. Hello.
Greetings. Where should we sit? Over here?
The whole room is in camera, so you're gonna try to approach, unfortunately. So we're on regular audio right now, which probably isn't very loud. Testing 1, 2. From back there, Brian, speak.
Hello. Yep. Welcome.
Actually, it's picking up pretty well.
Yep. Tolkien Society. Here we go.
I'll test that out in a minute.
Can I put your kettle on or hot water or not?
What's that?
Do you have any, like a kettle that I could put on for hot water?
I have pot. Still.
Oh, no. Then don't worry about it.
I'm just gonna have pots and pans. I don't have a kettle.
Oh, that's
But I
fine.
can put it in the pan.
Yeah, or microwave some water. Yeah, I could microwave some water. Okay, fine. Oh, no, it's actually, instant coffee.
Oh, coffee.
Good.
Oh, you need tea?
No, not this time. Okay.
Thank you for breakfast for me.
Yeah, no, I'll be good.
So we're on the air, and I just said, well, we got people arriving. And I was setting up. So,
Okay.
where's Richard?
Well,
You want to know what's on
he
you?
left me a message saying he couldn't give me a ride, but he didn't say, he said
Oh.
he was gonna see if there's another way to get here. So I emailed him, I said, if you can't come,
Mm-hmm.
see if you can at least join us
Online.
online,
Right. Okay.
which I was about to have to do until this man rescued me.
Yay.
Virtually
Thank you,
anywhere.
Chris.
Yes.
I just moved that cable down. So, yeah, let's pull it up on there, 'cause,
Oh, nice.
you know,
That's,
but it's being sluggish. I'll probably switch to the DVD. It has a better process, like twice the processing power of the TV.
by the way, I put some really cool short YouTube clips on our Tolkien Scholars Facebook page.
Yes.
They're about VE Day when we get to that part, if you want to try playing it.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
I don't know what VE Day is, but.
Victory in Europe.
Oh! Duh. I was thinking some sort of
Right, yeah, I know.
convention or something. I was like, I don't know
Comic-Con.
Yeah. What are you talking?
Sorry, guys.
Oh my. But that, I guess that the big point to close out is that the Republican Party still believes in the republic form of government.
Right. Well, I'll have to go along to a precinct meeting with you because I've never been to one.
Which meeting?
Well, I was just talking about trying to learn about the political system a little bit more. So Chris was explaining kind of how it works.
And I've done the King County one, which is very
It's picking you guys up fine.
okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
It's picking up the whole room quite well.
Well, that you picked a perfect place here.
I guess the
acoustics
are,
Yeah, and the
Bouncing
walls
out.
are supporting it.
yeah.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, you
hello.
just speaking quietly is coming in quite richly.
It helps to speak with a deep voice. Speak softly and carry a big stick.
Moving.
Who said that?
Okay, well, I guess we don't need the,
It takes
Wireless
a
and all
long time
as long as there's
it
a bunch of background
to
noise.
come to any decision.
It takes a long time for us to say anything worthwhile at all.
You, such a hasty word.
Which is actually really funny because there's a place, there's a hill in southern England, which is an accretion of Celtic, Saxon, French, all these different words for hill. And each of them added their own word for hill to it. So it'd be like, be calling it like hill. And then the next culture or language added a hill. I'd have to look it up again, but it's pretty funny.
I also upgraded the wireless access point here, so it's running a lot better, with a lot less choking and lagging than previously. And
Nice.
so,
Time to break out our LAN.
Most access points were designed that at least up until about 3 or 4 years ago, most of them were designed with only about 5 devices in mind.
yeah,
And a house like Hawk's,
yeah,
the Internet of Things
there's 20 something.
has authorized.
Yeah, it's a small city.
Yeah, I know that mine, after 6 or 7 devices, starts to choke. And
With mine, it's just 2 or 3 of us because between the boys and myself, we use a lot of bandwidth, and the wireless would just get overwhelmed just from that.
and it
You know,
kind of
The backbone is 105 megabit, but
the
wireless is
buffering,
choking.
just
Yeah. Well, and the router also, the ARC cache fills up because of the process. So this one has like 2 gigahertz processors in it. It was at Costco. It was $500 2 years ago.
which was
It's downstairs. It's in the server room.
Asus.
No, it's Netgear actually. I'm normally shy of Netgear because I'm usually low end, but it's got 3 big antennae, a higher DBI that has dual gigahertz processors. And it's like 1.3 gigabit on the 5 gigahertz side and 400 and something megabits on the 2.4 gigahertz side.
Yes.
Oh, crap, no, I didn't need that.
Updating
Netflix
forever.
Well, that will take a little while because the wrong burner was turned on, so just moved it over.
And burn the house down.
No, yeah. It's quite hot.
I'd forget my head if it wasn't so long.
As do we all. Yes.
Oh, Brian, do you have the notes with you?
I do.
You can read March 1st and then a little smidgen of April.
Yes, I shall.
If you would, please, while I fiddle with this.
Excellent. Hail and well met to the Tolkien Society meeting. I, Brian, will read the notes from March 2015, and as acting secretary, badly acting. So in March 14th, we met here at the home of Hawk Robinson, and Hawk, Richard were the 2 sole members present, but Chris came via Google Hangout. Good for you, Chris, to join in.
As everyone is welcome to do.
Absolutely. We really value everyone that can connect with us virtually. So the notes are as follows. First of all, we gave congratulations to Chris K for becoming a member of the Tolkien Society. All of us are now paid members.
Here, welcome, welcome, once again.
CK mentioned that our SMEAL is still not on the website map of, is it SMEAL or Smile?
I thought it was Smeal.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's SMEAL, but my daughter says it's Smile.
And I haven't checked.
It's a generational thing.
Smile definitely sounds confusing.
Doesn't it? Why would he?
You're on camera.
I'm thinking Tolkien would never have done something like that. Anyway, feel free to correct us. Our SMEAL is still not on the website map of SMEALs. HR has sent in a request for change, but it still has not been added at this date. Well, you know, I am going to the UK at the end of June, early July. Maybe I could knock on somebody's door and say, I'm here officially to complain.
I wish to register a
Flew
complaint.
all the way out here. Just all that's your whole reason.
Right. So, and then let's see here. Carry on. Let's see. Right. So then Hawk read minutes of February's meeting. We had a discussion about upcoming Tolkien Moot in the third weekend of July, which is where it shall be, or when it shall be, henceforth. The third weekend of July, neither later nor earlier. The fifth weekend is way out.
Is right up.
The theme this year will be giants. That includes ents, trolls, mountain giants, dragons, balrogs, basically giant beings and beasts of large proportions.
Yeah.
Start researching giant material in the
Basically, not 9
legendary.
feet tall or larger.
Yes.
basically.
And wives.
Yeah, certainly. That
And
would be
We are
great.
all inclusive here.
Yes, yes.
So start researching giant material in the Tolkien Legendarium because that would be useful,
Do that.
and send it on to Hawk because he could use all of that information. He'd love that. And then Hawk
And Drake will, so last year, Drake helped co-write the main campaign. So, for Tolkien Moot. And I wrote the main part and he helped co-write and fill in a lot of it. And there's a lot of give and take. So he may once again contribute because he wishes to be a professional writer and he loves doing Tolkien game. He also GM. So, so that was fun to have that included.
So 3, Hawk introduced us to an English vocabulary from Vinoir Tengwar, or nose.
Yeah, every month we do a little bit.
Nenaway. It doesn't have all the consonants. And mouth, pay, or ando. So we will have some more when we're.
Yep, every month we have one or more words from Vinya Tengwa.
Okay, RB mentioned third Hobbit movie. Further discussion, Battle of Five Armies, Jackson's departure, why departure from the Hobbit book.
Oh my
Ratliff's
goodness.
comments in History of the Hobbit, page 595. Arkenstone as Silmaril. First phrase was for Thorin to succumb to dragon sickness. Discussion about dragon sickness. Later version of the dwarves were not infected with it. Gem of Girion became necklace of Girion in book, and also talked about Giles of Ham, which Tolkien depicted Chrysophlax the dragon as a more positive encounter between a dragon and a man, though not ideal. Letter read by 96, taking turns. Tolkien discusses literary value of the Bible in its own merit. Reference of the Lord of the Rings to his son Christopher, the ring, Sam's tough word, and Gollum almost repenting, the untold story that is the most moving. Huck's connection with Lovecraft, a writer describes us telling it all, and Tolkien's connection to contemporary history. Russians are 60 miles from Berlin. I don't know why gloat. Only the machines are triumphant.
What?
I think
Bottom of point five.
Tolkien was saying there, I think, so we're almost about to see the end of Germany and the Nazi regime, which is good, but why should the Allies gloat over the destruction of a culture? Instead, they should perhaps mourn, I think was kind of his idea. Because the only ones who really win at the end of this war, he says, are the machines. So that's his point of view. By the way, did we get this out on Google Plus for Tolkien scholars?
Yes.
Because Jeremiah Burns and Peter Collier sometimes.
I can send them invites. Maybe
That'd be
if
great
they've
if you
been
could.
following us.
Okay.
Well, Jeremiah at least would, I think.
Long-ranging discussion afterwards about using subtlety in writing versus telling all.
Who else? Jeremiah Burns and
Peter Collier joined us the one time.
Okay.
I think he's in our circle. Artemir, that's via something else though, isn't it?
yeah. I don't. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. Yeah, well, the others don't join via the hangout. They do it right in the chat room. I'm
All right.
That sent right now.
And how was Hawk's conference presentation?
Oh, we were asking that now, or we discussed that last time?
That's the it conflicted, so
Yeah.
it was necessary to make other arrangements,
Right.
and we postponed.
What's your? I need Hawk's help to link in
To
to your wireless
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Which one? Just type that in.
It's the WSNet 06.
Oh, it's 06 XT1 or XT?
Neither of the XTs, either the
Oh, I see
06
it.
or the 06 5 gigahertz.
I see, it's WSNet 06. Got it.
Yeah.
And do I need a password?
Yes. It's on the top of the whiteboard there. It starts with the.
Because I just lost my Gmail with the notes to you about.
Oh, bummer. Well, okay.
Yes.
So I forgot that the DVD doesn't allow a browser. You know, it has twice the processing power. Only the TV has a browser, but the TV is half the processing power. So, because this is an early generation of web TV, so it's pretty slow.
That goes about as fast as my 1.66 gigahertz Core 2 Duo Mac with 2 gigs of RAM.
Ouch. Yeah, I think this is like 1.1 gigahertz or something.
It's my Mac Mini that does Office applications and is the file server.
I'm in. No better
I
fit.
it didn't load back the other website. Yeah, this is not being very cooperative. What I should do is just hook up the HDMI to my laptop. Reach.
That would be too easy.
Because then I could just totally show anything you wanted.
Yes.
But that's all.
Darn it.
You have to move the whole table.
Well, yeah, and well,
There's a 3.
You want my help?
another time. Oh, yeah. Next time I'll have this that much more because obviously it's a complete overall.
I like though. I mean, if you look at kind of how
Yeah.
it presents, I think this is really nice.
And it's cozy and comfortable, and
Plus,
I'll be able
like too
to.
much our baldness.
I
And I'll be able to
resemble that
supplement.
remark.
as we get more people here and there, I'll be able to supplement on screen and all that. So I think this will be a good setup in the long term.
So do we know if anybody has joined us?
No one has joined us in the Hangout, and there's really no way to know how many are viewing the stream. Oh, let's see, it tells us. Yeah, nobody's watching the stream either. It's just us. Well, a lot of times people catch the recording. I'm now spreading word through the chat rooms.
I'm going to text Richard and just say, hey. Just got your text. It says here. I love Verizon.
All of them do that periodically.
Yes.
Yes.
I forget, there is actually priority, isn't there, on your text messages? Or
It does not help when all of your combined sewer overflow telemetry devices use SMS to send their notifications.
No way. Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
But once in a while, there's a several hour delay when we should have known earlier.
I'd like to think I'm a really clever joke right now that has something to do with sewer, but I can't come up with it. Oh, Richard.
Well, letter 97
Yes.
talks about the English after 1200.
You'll need to speak up more than that.
The English after 1200 AD has still working Roman sewers.
Absolutely. I saw working Roman sewers.
Yes.
We'll have to look at that soon. I actually saw a piece of Roman, like a lead pipe from about the year 100 AD in Chester. It was a Roman lead pipe. I was very impressed. It had the name of the
craftsman who made
no,
the
it was
or-
the not the procurator, but the it was basically a government official, a Roman government official, who during his governorship of Britain, this pipe was made.
Okay.
I know, right? I guess that helps you to know how old it is, right? Okay, I'm just sending a text to Richard right now. Well,
so you got through the notes?
we did, yeah.
All right, so we start with another words from the Vineyard Tengwar.
Yeah.
Sorry, I run a little sluggish tonight. So apologies that we're not as lively as usual.
Dancing the spring ring.
But
It's a lively dance, the Springle Ring.
Springle Ring, I don't know.
Springle Ring. Yeah, it's a Hobbit dance.
I didn't know
You
that.
didn't know that?
No.
We need to add that to our next.
News to me.
Springle Ring, a lively dance that the Hobbits do. Okay, so just make sure I didn't miss anything. Thanks, Chris, for finishing the notes. I'll give you credit for the notes. You read more than I did.
Fair.
I still get to be acting secretary.
Only if badly.
Right then, let's go ahead and go into our routine of learning Elvish vocabulary.
Yes, this is again from the Collected Vineyard Tengwar, Volume 1, Issues 1 through 10. The very, very first page from Vineyard Tengwar, number 1, September 1988. So we already covered Lokse for hair, Dol for head, Finde for tress, Anta for face, Hen for eye, Nenwa for nose, heando for he or ando for mouth,
Mm-hmm.
Nelki for teeth, and
I don't think we did
Oh, then we didn't. Okay. So Nelki, N as in Nancy, ELKI for teeth.
And this is this so Tengwar is the alphabet, so to speak, right?
Yes.
But this is Sindarin, is it not?
Yes.
Okay.
And and then Lamba for tongue.
Oh, interesting. So kind of mouth related.
Yes.
We did mouth.
We did mouth
before.
already, which is either pe or ando.
Right. Which is sometimes used for like the mouth of a river.
Right. Exactly. Andu in
yes.
Andu. Same thing with the hen for eye, almond hen.
Right. But, so Nelki is teeth, and what's tongue?
Lamba, Lamba.
Now that's actually one of the names of the letters in Elvish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let me just pull that up a second. Elvish letter. I think it's the letter that is for their sound L, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So Lamba. That would be too easy.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Lambda.
Actually, it says lambe, so it's a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
one's Quenya versus Sindarin.
Yeah. Lambe. Yeah. With an umlaut above it. Yeah, lambe. Oh. Yeah, it says here, at least from the website I'm looking at, which is on Tumblr, so I'm not sure if that gives it any credibility, but it's gotta be something good on Tumblr, right? Study guide, the additional letters, Tengwar tutor, and it says lambe tongue. This Tengwa represents the sound L, the fourth letter, 28th overall.
Interesting. It's because it's a tongue. You go.
I think so. Totally makes sense.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, and we already covered aroma for shoulder, and I think we did lonko for throat and yacht for neck. Pretty sure we did that.
Here's lambe. Oh, interesting.
Yes.
It's the letter T, if you will.
But the Tengwar, it's actually an L. That's that's the one on the Tor dice. I mean, I knew it was a Tengwar room. That's why I just clicked upon the Tengwar. So that's Lamba.
Crazy.
So you rolled 3 tongues. That's gonna add some interesting variability. Last night we played, and Brian was lore master. We played the One Ring by Cubicle 7's role-playing game set. And told me, oh, you have a book with you even. There you go. We've been doing this now with his family and my girlfriend and my
Camera's
family.
over there.
It's up there on the tripod.
I was like, obviously I'm not.
So we've been playing this. So I first introduced Brian to it a few years ago with Tolkien Mood and such. Actually, no, when it first came out, we ran our own group. And that's available on YouTube, the 4 sessions that we did of the Marsh Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And then played it at each Tolkien Mood the last few years. And then you last summer, for the first time, ran at the game for your daughters, right, when you were in Michigan?
Yes.
And how did that go?
It went really well. I'm just trying to find, it's kind of hard to see, I think, on here. I don't think probably you're able to see the little character rune there, but.
Hold it up closer, keep going. There we go. Yeah, it starts to get blurry, but
Yeah,
you can make it out. Autofocus, as long as it looks still. There we go, yeah. You can make that out.
so you can see that it's a 6 with a little Tengwar rune, and that means that's a success, or it actually adds a degree of success.
Right.
And the more you have, the more successful, the more extraordinary success that your action results in. And so that's just an interesting connection.
The more you talk, the more you succeed.
Well, there must be a reason. I'm wondering if it's because when Francesco,
Yeah, that makes you know Francesco used that particular one.
you know, was he thinking of a particular Elvish word that means success and it starts with that letter?
Yeah, that would be a good question.
Okay, well, let's try to find that out.
Yeah,
next
because he's
meeting.
responsive through Facebook and such.
Okay, you were about to say something.
I no longer recall.
So milk for tea.
Milky.
And we're talking about this character. If it'll show it on the screen.
Closer, my son. There you go.
Does it show it there?
Yeah.
All right, so lambe means tongue.
Lamba.
Lamba.
Lambe, I think, is the Quenya version.
Oh, right.
In fact, I think it's actually listed in the summary here of comparisons. English, base or root, Quenya, High Elvis, Sindar, and Nola room. Hey, Brennan. Okay, sorry. So, yeah, so we're continuing kind of working our way down. We pretty much covered everything from now the head down to the shoulders. So next month we'll start on the chest and such. Okay. Any other tidbits you want to share before we go into letters and such?
Well, I'm going to try to hook up. That's a funny verb. I'm going to try to connect with Jeremiah Burns, who sometimes has been a visitor for our monthly meetings. He lives in the same part of England where we used to live, and so I've actually messaged him and said, "Hey,
You'll be passing through.
yeah, I'll be coming. I'll be in the area. Can we get together?" And so that sounded good to him. He's just recently become a Tolkien Society member as well. So that's kind of fun to represent one Smeal to another or whatever.
Yes.
So I'm going to try to do that. If there's anything Tolkien related while I'm over there, I'll try to post it to the Tolkien Scholars Facebook page.
Okay.
I'll just mention whatever. Put it on the wall profile. So that's going to be end of June to end of July is when I'll be gone. So that means that I'll be here for a June meeting of the Tolkien Society, but I will miss the July meeting and Tolkien meeting.
Okay.
And they usually go together, don't they?
Right, yeah, we combine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whatever the month is that we have, which now will always be July, whatever month we have Tolkien.
What is that date?
But if we have some very late broadcasts, then Brian can join us in the morning.
Well, that's what I was wondering, is if we look at the time, the date, the calendar here.
Right. Well, remember, the Tolkien route runs from morning till late at night, so that could certainly be accommodated.
Okay, so the
If others are up for it.
third weekend looks like it's the 18th and 19th.
17th, 18th, and 19th. Remember, we do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And I will try to.
I think, okay, the weekend before that I'm in London. The weekend of the 18th and 19th, I believe we're back from Devonshire. So the 19th, I don't know when you're thinking of doing it, but if you do the meeting on Sunday, which I think we did before.
Yeah, would it work in the morning or the evening? Usually we do as a wrap up at the end.
Gotcha.
Evening,
But it can be whatever.
their evening, your.
Well, they're 7 or 8 hours ahead.
Yeah, we're
So
GMT minus
if
7.
you, yeah, right now we're 7, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
I know it changes.
Yeah.
They do their daylight savings a little bit different than we do. But so if you were to wrap up, it'd be right, what, about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
We usually wrap up. We usually do the gaming ends by 5, so people that have to leave and catch flights and such leave. But we try to do the final broadcast at 5 till 6.
Okay.
So that's typically when we do that.
Which should be,
Midnight one.
yeah, that's a little late.
So what about
maybe-
in the morning? What's 9 or 10 a.m. equivalent?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be totally fine.
What would that be for you?
Sure, that'd just be in the afternoon, or you could do your.
We have a mid-afternoon thing too.
You do
right.
right. I was trying to think of organizing around your
Well, look at the
campaign. You do the last session of the
sessions.
campaign typically the afternoon, don't you? So
Right.
it
So
could be
here's
right before
the
that. Maybe.
session schedule on Sunday.
Okay.
8 a.m. to 11 a.m., which I've changed slightly to allow a little more socializing, a little less grueling for some people to allow one
Sure.
gaming for his own gaming. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. is pre-events gathering, social, breakfast, chat, etc. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is gaming session number 5, all gaming tables. 2 to 2:30 is a lunch break. 2:30 to 5:30 is a final main gaming session, and then 5:30 to 6 is closing ceremonies. So, and then after that is a dinner and extra gaming and such. So we could potentially either do like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I think that's probably ideal.
That's gonna be perfect.
So that will be our Tolkien, and we could potentially do that consistently on Tolkien if we keep that.
What would be a hoot is if I could get Jeremiah to come and join me.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Or any others there in the
Yeah,
society. So. To find out if he was at the Tolkien gathering, they had a flyer for this year's.
I think he only just joined in the last month.
Oh, okay. The April Almond Hen here had a booking form for the Tolkien Society seminar. I remember a few years ago, they read my paper, Tolkien and His Love of Trees, there in the UK.
Right.
And they keep promising to send a recording or transcript or something, or include a little magazine, but they've never gotten around to it, and that's like 4 years old now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Almond Hen 252. I'm assuming you guys have yours as well.
Yes.
Since you're all members now. Too bad Richard's not able to join us. Oh wait, somebody's there. Uh-oh. Oh, okay, yep, Jeremiah, thank you for joining us, Jeremiah.
Hey.
Welcome. Hail and well met.
We were just talking about you, Jeremiah. I hope your ears weren't, itching or burning, right? Whatever it is, I'm not sure. So we were talking about the fact that I'm going to be over in the UK in July, and so our July meeting will coincide with the Tolkien Moot role-playing event here, and they usually try to put that on Sundays. So we were talking. I was saying, hey, wouldn't it be great? I mean, I mentioned the fact that I'm hoping that maybe I'll be able to meet you in person as a fellow Tolkien Society member in Warrington, but then also there's the chance, if it works out, maybe that you can join us for that as well. I was thinking that I could, join via Google Hangout from England on, let's see, that's July the 19th on a Sunday.
Okay, all right.
At
11 a.m. or 10 a.m. our time.
okay,
So,
and so just to confirm, so the UK is 7 hours ahead right now from Pacific.
let me go to time.gov and find
Yeah, let's
out.
just check that out quite right now.
So Pacific right now, of course, is 1:44 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, Greenwich Meridian time.
So let's go to GMT.
GMT.
There's UTC, which is Universal Time.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. So UTC right now is 8:44 p.m. So 7 hour difference.
7 hours?
Yes.
Okay, so that would put us at 5 p.m.
That would work beautifully.
Yeah. 5 p.m. in the UK
On Sunday.
on Sunday the 19th.
And I will update.
Hey, you want me to sit over there?
I've got
You've got it up
it's
there
9:45.
right now. Oh,
Oh, well
That's
then
8 hour difference.
UTC and GMT are not the same.
okay. My bad.
Let's see.
So it's 9:45. Is it still light out
So
at this time of
UTC
day?
plus 1, I guess.
Yeah, UTC is
Didn't know which window I should
does
have
not UTC does not change with
Right.
daylight savings time.
Right. So
Oh.
that's the problem. GMT does, but differently.
I see.
So that could be a little. Yeah, I think it'll be middle summer, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'll list it as Pacific time. Everybody has to figure that out.
I'll work around
The rest of the world will do really weird things.
From our perspective. Okay, so possibly 6 p.m. then.
Yes.
Well, I hope things are going well for you, Jeremiah. We're just about ready to start reading Tolkien letter 97, if you want to pull that up. And we just discussed the, there we go, letters of Tolkien, the man himself.
Yeah.
My eldest daughter informed me that the tree which Tolkien leaned against
Yes.
has been cut down.
Yes, there was a big hue and cry about that.
Right.
And people made a big deal about it.
Yeah. And it probably wasn't disease. They probably were just like, oh, you know.
Yeah, there was a lot of argument.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah says it's just gone dark here. It's a bit past twilight, not quite full dark.
There's
Excellent
nothing,
opening now.
there's nothing better than a British twilight because they're so far north. It's like southern Canada, the latitude. I mean, the Gulf Stream makes things mild, but they're really far north. And where he is where I used to live, and that's almost, you know, I mean, it's halfway up the island, really, when you think about it. It's closer to Scotland than it is to the southern coast. So it's great. I love the late, you know, midsummer approaching, and it's a wonderful time. So yeah, we're just trying out a new surround here, a little different
Setup.
Same house, different rooms.
Yes, one of many rooms.
Now
They're set up for broadcasting.
But now Hockey can admire your amazing chair, right?
The throne.
That's
That's downstairs. Well, that's where I have the green screen and stuff, so I can do all sorts of. I've got a portable green screen. I can put like one corner here if we wanted to do overlays.
The throne of games.
Or you know what? Maybe I could just put green on there. Oh wait, why don't I just send whatever I want to send onto there? That'd be a little easier. That'd be weird to use a monitor.
I know, yeah, right. So, who would like to start reading?
Which number was it?
97.
97.
And we've got some kind of talking points as well this time. We're really prepared.
Woohoo! Did you get your hot water? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
You want to go ahead?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were about to read it.
No, I was just getting the right page.
You have it?
I have
Chris, I nominate
Chris,
you.
Go for it.
Okay. 97
I'll take
from a
mine.
letter to Christopher Tolkien, 11 February 1945, FS 80.
FS, of course, referring to the order in which he's sending it because he wanted to see whether or not the Royal Mail would censor their letters, right?
I've wasted some precious time this weekend writing a letter to the Catholic Herald. One of their sentimentalist correspondents wrote about the etymology of the name Coventry and seemed to think that unless you said it came from convent, I was thinking covenant. Convent. The answer was not in keeping with Catholic tradition. I gathered that the convent of St. Osberg was of no consequence. He said he. Boo. As convent did not enter English until after 1200 AD.
I love it.
And meant an assembly at that. And the meaning nunnery is not recorded before 1795, Mr. OED. I felt annoyed. So I have asked whether he would like to change the name of Oxford to Doncaster.
Doncaster.
He's probably too stupid to see even that mild.
Ooh, boy. Tolkien, he doesn't usually get that.
So I'm not so
Sweet.
sure
Snarky.
that he wasted precious time on
He's just letting it fly, isn't he?
He is. Wow.
showing his age.
Yeah.
Tell us how
towards-
you really feel.
Getting towards the poison pen years of writing too.
It's impatience. I feel it. The older I get, and it's funny. You feel like you gain wisdom and experience,
Mhm.
but sometimes that doesn't always serve you well because sometimes you feel more impatient with people who don't get the clue.
Lower tolerance for. It's more difficult to suffer fools.
Yes.
Yes.
Because yes,
Yes.
Because you feel you're no longer one of them.
which is of course the irony. Because
Who's more foolish, the fool or the fool that follows the fool?
Youth and vigor are all well and good, but old age and cunning overcome.
quoted from.
I don't remember.
Oh.
Ouch.
And by the way, Jeremiah states that the
My dad.
sound is really great. And
Fantastic.
this is the simplest setup.
I know. Fuck.
We don't have to deal with all the other.
What have we
clips
been
and
doing
everything.
all these years?
Yeah. Well, but it's the combination of the room, acoustics, and that camera and microphone, I guess.
Okay, so we have to duplicate
Video's
this.
great, no lag or anything.
Wow.
And then he says Tolkien can get quite piss and vinegar when it comes to someone questioning linguistics.
Absolutely. There is the
Yes.
there is the sacred thing. Okay, so let's talk about this short, pithy,
Yeah.
or pithy letter. So talking first of all, why do names matter so much to Tolkien? What is his thing about names and understanding the proper origin of a name?
Well, I mean, part of it is his whole evolutionary belief in language, that languages evolve and based on events and cultural evolution, and that it's a snapshot in time and it's representative of where that culture is at linguistically. And
Mhm.
names are a distilling of that snapshot in time of a
Right.
culture. I don't know, that's one.
No, that's a
one
good
idea.
Any thoughts on that, Chris?
And if you do not understand the culture, the context in which a name is used, you may get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Badly wrong.
Indeed. Jeremiah says, Tolkien always said the language comes first and the story follows, which is what's so different about his writings that none of these other authors
Yeah.
get.
I don't know if anybody else does.
Everybody says, oh, it's the greatest, it's the latest Tolkien, it's the latest, George R. R. Martin, Robert Jordan, whatever, he's the latest Tolkien. And all I have to say is, even if they're an enjoyable writer, and say,
Sure.
unless they come from a linguistic background, there will never be the latest Tolkien fantasy writer because of that fundamental difference of how it evolved. Because he broke all the rules for writing a fiction work, right? He started with the language first. And I do not know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not know a single successfully published author that's written any work of fiction, for not just fantasy, but you would think that would be necessary, but any work of fiction where they started with creating the language first and then needed to create the world to explain why the language was the way it was, to show the differences and changes. I'm not aware of anybody.
There are many writers who have
Bolt on
created-
languages after the fact.
who have created the world first, such, I'm thinking, Anne McCaffrey in the Fern series, for example,
Okay.
where the world was created and augmented and augmented and augmented, and the language came a bit later,
Right.
but you're right.
Which is, it then raises the question, so Tolkien wasn't being arbitrary. He was obviously coming from his field. He was a linguist. He loved languages. He was help me out here,
Philologist.
philologist, thank you. So he's a philologist. Why did he do that in his writing because he felt that language was a causal thing in our cultures? I tend to look at language as a maybe window into, more of an effect.
I've been rewatching Babylon 5. I was just taking a long class in math and such, and I can't get through tedious math unless I have other stuff going on.
Yes.
Which drives Brennan nuts. He's like, how can you do homework in math with an old TV show running? And I'm like, it's the only way I can do it. I can't sit
the
for
other side of my brain.
Exactly. I can't sit for more than 15 minutes and do something that tedious. Now if I'm writing code and creating, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But to just do tedious math because some college requirement, blah, 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 it's just, all right, just got to go through it all. And the only way I can stay sane is, but it can't be something I've never seen before and that I have to fully pay attention. It needs to be something I can partially pay attention to.
Okay.
That is engaging enough but not too engaging. So, one of the things is I have the entire Babylon 5 collection. And remember, J. Michael Straczynski borrowed heavily from Tolkien and other sources, Michael Moorcock's Elric, etc. He literally had a techno-mage named Elric. And he literally used the phrase, do not meddle in the affairs of wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger. He uses that in one of the episodes.
He just cribbed it.
So, Tolkien drew heavily on The Lord of the Rings and other Tolkien works. He was a fan as well. And one of the things that one of the characters, I think it was Lorien, who was this first one, when he was the earliest sentient creature, says, which came first, the thought or the word? You cannot conceive of a word without the thought, and yet you need language to conceive of a thought. So it gets a kind of a chicken and the egg discussion. And so that, I think, ties in with what you're saying, is how fundamental is language to, understanding a society. Well, arguably, and neuroscience is not able to determine this at this stage, as far as I know, and that's part of my field of study. At least I haven't come across it yet. I haven't really been able to determine that, because as babies we see shapes and things like that, but we also learn language. But we don't know that there is a stream of conscious thought until that language formation is there. It's more stimulus response in those early stages. There is problem solving and such, but there isn't that inner dialogue that we develop. Because how do you have an inner dialogue? Now, it may all just be visual. It might be at those early stages we have a completely visual inner dialogue. But how do we determine that? I don't know. So
that's a really fascinating question to explore, because I think we tend to
Babylon 5 brings that topic up immediately.
we tend to. I guess I should say I tend to assume the thought comes first and then the word expresses it.
Mm-hmm.
But are you saying so? In this character is kind of saying, well, but if we didn't have a word to express it, how would this thought?
Well, and how would you have abstract cognition?
Right.
You can have visualizations of things that have happened.
True.
You can have visualizations of trying to, get the banana out of the cage or something. But how would you be able to do? Because part of the thing that our neocortex does, that the other parts we can't do, is we can time travel in our mind forward and back in time. And you could visually go back in time, but how would you travel forward in time visually that way without these other abstract concepts of language?
Which are like rungs on a ladder or some kind of thing, whatever metaphor you use, but they allow us to actually construct almost like a telescope into the future to be able to imagine, right? Is what you're saying.
And certainly, how we ever communicate is sort of telepathy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an episode, lots of episodes of telepaths. One of them is the guy can't speak, but he communicates through visual imagery. Like he creates images, and that's how he communicates. So maybe it is an interesting concept. Jeremiah commented quite a bit.
Okay.
He also said, no problem, video is great too, no lag or anything. Okay, we got that. The Legendarium was written really so this is his contribution, really so that the languages he already invented had a place in which to live. Yeah, we said that many times. Dothraki, for example, from Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, has, I believe, evolved outside the pages of the books by the fandom and by linguists. But that development isn't Martin's doing. Exactly. I suppose there's something to be said about the development of a language. If you can learn why a word developed from one thing into another, You learn something of the people using it and their history.
Say that again.
If you can learn why a word developed from one thing into another, you learn something of the people using it and their history.
That's it. That's it. That's
He goes
why
on.
Tolkien, why it bugs him that somebody's reading into the past instead of just taking it as it is and saying, well, this city has a name for a reason. Go ahead.
The whys and wherefores of their culture. And I imagine that if you can begin to unravel some of those mysteries, it must be rather addictive. Every time you find a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, you find yourself encouraged to carry on a bit further. We're all doomed anyway in the future. Everyone's going to speak in text speech. C-U-L-H-R. See you later.
Well, and that is
LOL.
that is of great concern to philologists of today. Is really the
Cannibalizing
the issue that we are shortening things up and demogrifying things. The demogrifier. We are changing the pace of language due to us texting and
Well, and aren't we
It's
also homogenizing because of the internet?
yes.
Brennan watches anime all the time because he's getting ready for his trip to Japan, and you know, that's supposed to get to immersion sites and online interaction.
Sure.
Much of the anime has a lot of Westernisms in it. They speak English as best they can,
That's right.
using all our little phrases.
Yep.
Some of the anime uses a lot of it. They often use it terribly, but it's usually a lot of those catchphrases for exclaiming or describing something.
Now,
And that Westernization is happening in a lot of places because of the internet.
now, what I will comment about that is that those anime use usually Osakan characters.
Yeah. Although he's watched some, they did a version of Seven Samurai called Samurai 7, which is a complete animification, if you will, of the Seven Samurai, and it is in the old style,
Really?
spoken and
Okay.
and
Because a lot of it would be like watching. It would be like watching videos of things done in the deep South, and then going to either Boston or California.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. Happy kind, happy guy.
Yes.
So he might encounter.
No, he's already. I mean, he's taking language classes.
Yeah.
He's with a class
Yeah,
through
okay.
GPrep. He is online interacting with Japanese people
Okay.
in real life. But this is a lot of them. He watches a lot of the ones that are a lot of them are based on their animist and Bushido and all those different aspects. So he's getting a lot of cultural stuff, not so much the language. But it is interesting to note all of the Western snippets.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, what's interesting, Joss Whedon's Firefly and Serenity, his future is Mandarin and English merge. And everybody basically, it switches back and forth between the two seamlessly. Most of the cursing and exclamations and things like that are done in Mandarin, much to the actors' frustration, who none of them knew any Chinese before.
But preserving the TV rating, right?
And then the rest of the dialogue is in English, but it pretty much, basically China becomes the world, the U.S. China becomes the world government, and then they spread out to the solstice. But I don't hear many people here anyway throwing out much in the way of Chinese exclamations and such, whereas I hear plenty of other cultures using Western.
That's an interesting question because it's really saying, are there some really good, healthy ways in which you could have languages amalgamate, but with the text-to-speak thing, or with just kind of a lot of pop culture, we basically cherry pick things that we want, not necessarily a true kind of organic
But
melding.
Japan and Korea, of course, they're heavy textures. They boil away what we do in this country.
Well, right. But I was just
they
thinking about
get finger, they
Yeah.
get arthritis in their thumbs.
Yeah, you get repetitive stress injuries.
Well, I guess we better keep moving on.
Well, let's see. Also, Jeremiah says Stephen Fry made a really interesting statement recently on language. He was giving an interview to a British talk show host who was bemoaning the rape of the English language by the youth. Later, LOL, etc.
Yeah.
But Fry said, we already accept changes in language, and we have done so for centuries, and will, of course, continue to do so. Fry asked the host if melding of words was okay. The host replied that it depended on the words, whereupon Fry pointed out that melding didn't mean what we used to think. It used to mean to announce. But it changed over time, and now we just accept it for what it is. Fry is a...
Touche. He's a really smart guy.
He's really crass.
I
too,
wish that
though.
he would not drop the F-bomb as much as he
Yeah.
does. But
He has that IQ, whatever, QI show now.
he's a smart guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see the OED getting any smaller anytime soon.
Well,
yeah, there's been a lot of writing about the whole texting, and because often it is about increasing simplification of communication.
So Doncaster, just so everybody knows,
Yes, please.
is the old Roman name for Oxford.
Okay.
So that, I believe, Doncaster was the Roman camp. Any English name with caster at the end,
Meant camp.
that meant camp.
Was Don like boss camp or something? Main camp?
No, I think it was the River Don,
Oh, okay.
possibly. Although I'm not completely sure about
I
that.
just think like Don
Actually,
Corleone and...
No, because it's River Ox, and it's a ford across the River Ox, and that's why they call it Oxford.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay. That'd be interesting to find out.
It would.
You want me to read 98?
Sure.
Or at least the first part of it?
Yep.
To Stanley Unwin. Unwin's elder son David, the children's writer David Severn, had read Tolkien's story Leaf by Niggle in the Dublin Review, where it was published in January 1945. He commended it to his father, calling it an exquisite piece of work, and suggested that it be published in a volume along with other short stories by Tolkien. Stanley Unwin passed this suggestion to Tolkien. Undated, circa 18th of March 1945, 20 Northmore Road, Oxford. Excuse me. Dear Unwin, I have written several imaginary letters to you and half an actual one in the past few months, before I got your note of 24 February. Especially, I have meant to inquire after Rayner. I hope you have good news of him. The RAF cadets of his course seem all to have had a wretched time since, but the Navy is rather less irrational and wasteful, so he may have been spared some of the worst squalors and frustrations now inflicted, too often quite unnecessarily, on young men. Also, my third son, Christopher, has been for a long time at Standerton in the Transvaal, and there one of his great friends has been Chris Unwin. Footnote. My boy, I hear today, is in transit from England after a year and a quarter away, so I hope Unwin is too. For England. Not from, sorry. Certainly, they were still together on March 3rd, but already one of the group has been killed in his first flight in a hurricane, my boy's stable companion and the one who came out top of the course. And there you have one of the explanations of my unproductiveness and seeming neglect. My heart is gnawed out with anxiety. And anyway, my Christopher was my real primary audience, who has read, vetted, and typed all of the new Hobbit or The Ring that has been completed. He was dragged off in the middle of making maps. I have squandered almost the only time I have had to spare for writing in continuing our interrupted conversations by epistle. He occupied the multiple position of audience, critic, son, student in my department, and my tutorial pupil. Footnote. But he has received copies of all the chapters I wrote in a spurt last year. Since when I have been more than ever burdened, or the ratio between duty and weariness has been more unfavorable. Brian, do you want to read the next part, or do you want to read a little more?
Oh, that's fine. You can read on more.
Okay. Since you have seen Leaf by Niggle, I was going to advert to it myself as part apologia, part confession. I need say no more, except that story was the only thing I have ever done which cost me absolutely no pains at all. Usually, I compose only with great difficulty and endless rewriting. I woke up one morning, more than 2 years ago, with that odd thing virtually complete in my head. It took only a few hours to get down and then copy out. I am not aware of ever thinking of the story or composing it in the ordinary sense. All the same, I do not feel so detached as not to be cheered, indeed rather bowled over, by your son's comment. The only notice of or observation on the leaf that I have had at all outside my own circle. Well, Niggle is so unlike any other short story that I have ever written or begun that I wonder if it would consort with them. 2 others of that tone and style remain mere budding leaves like so many of silly Niggles. Would it be of any use if I put together in a bundle what I can find, and let you say whether with rewriting of this, omission of that, or addition of the other, they have any chance of making a volume? There are 1 or 2 short verse narratives. Some have already appeared in the print in the Oxford magazine, which might pass tactfully sandwiched in. Were you considering Farmer Giles? I always
Giles.
It is Giles. Okay. As a possibility, it is rather a long short. The correct and properly typed copy is out on its usual travels at the moment, but I have a tolerable homemade copy which I am sending for David Severn's perusal. The sequel is plotted but unwritten, and likely to remain so.
No.
The heart has gone out of the little kingdom, and the woods and plains are aerodromes and bomb practice targets.
Wow.
But another comic fairy story of a similar genre, The King of the Green Dozen, is half written and could be finished without much pain if Farmer Giles is approved. As for larger work, of course my only real desire is to publish The Silmarillion, asterisk, especially as I find allusions and references to it creeping into Mr. Lewis's work, such as his latest novel, footnote 4. Which your reader, you may possibly remember, allowed to have a certain beauty, but of a Celtic kind, irritating to Anglo-Saxons. Still, there's the great Hobbit sequel. I use great, I fear, only in a quantitative sense. It is much too great for the present situation, in that sense. But it cannot be docked or abbreviated. I cannot do better than I have done in this, unless, as is possible enough, I am no judge. But it is not finished. I made an effort last year to finish it and failed. 3 weeks with nothing else to do and a little rest and sleep first would probably be sufficient. But I don't see any hope of getting them, and it simply is not the kind of stuff for odd moments. Like Niggle, I want a public pension, and am equally unlikely to get one. You shall, of course, have it for consideration the moment it is done, if it ever is. I did say, I believe, that I would let you have a part of it to judge of, but it is so closely knit and under a process of growth in all its parts that I find I have to have all the chapters by me. I am always, you see, hoping to get at it. And anyway, only 1 copy, home typed or written by various filial hands of my own, that is legible by others exists, and I've feared to let it go of it. And I've shirked the expense of professional typing in these hard days, at any rate until the end and the whole is corrected. But would you now really wish to see some of it? It is divided into 5 parts, of 10 to 12 chapters each! 4 are completed, and the last begun. I would send it to you part by part with all its present imperfections on it, writers, alternatives, variable proper names, until you cry, halt! This is enough! It must go by the way of the Silmarillion into the limbo of the great unpublishables. I must stop, or you'll be feeling the time and paper could be better spent on writing, not talking about it. I have special exams until Easter, and some trouble with the University of Wales. Also, all the trouble caused by the death of my colleague, H.C.K. Wilde, to find whose successor will chiefly devolve on me this vacation. I am in trouble with Blackwell, who has set up my translation of Pearl, and needs corrections and introduction. I am in trouble with the widow of Professor E.V. Gordon of Manchester, whose posthumous work on Pearl I undertook as a duty to a dead friend and pupil to put in order, and have failed to do my duty. But I suppose I may get a few weeks in the year to myself, though I'm also in serious trouble with the Clarendon Press and with my lost friend,
Mademoiselle
Mademoiselle Simon de Arden. who has suddenly reappeared, having miraculously survived the German occupation and the Rundstedt offensive, which rolled over her, waving the the manuscripts of a large work we began together and promised to the early English Text Society, footnote 5, which has not forgotten it, nor my own book on the Ankring Rivu, footnote 6, which is all typed out. If instead of BDST, footnote 7, you could invent a scheme for doubling the day and relieve me of houseboy's duties, I'd drown you in stuff like Tom, Dick, and Harry. But I do remain very deeply grateful for your kindness and concern. Yours sincerely, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Wow.
There's a lot in that letter.
Holy cow.
There's a lot of material.
Indeed.
That will take probably the rest of our...
I think so. Yeah.
Let's see what Jeremy...
Yeah, any comments there?
This last one is available.
Is it?
Which one?
The Ankring Rule?
Yeah, it is it was published, and it is about the kind of the rules of the nuns.
The Benedictines, the Dominicans.
Yes, and kind of their rules.
Is this
the
word
way they
here?
live.
Is this like another old word for ancient, or what?
I don't think it's ancient.
Well, we'll have to look at the footnotes.
Yeah.
But let's go through it in order. Jeremiah,
Yes.
Did Jeremiah have any comments?
Yes, he has quite a few. He says, so, part apologies, part confession. What's that?
Are you on Google Chat or on Tolkien Scholars Facebook profile?
This is in the Google Plus Hangout.
Oh, okay, so I can't see it.
Yes. Part apologia, part confession. In other words, I know The Lord of the Rings is taking an awful long time to write, but I'm working really hard at getting all the leaves looking the way I want them to before showing you the whole tree. King of the Green Dozen. Does anyone know more about this?
Well, let's come to it maybe.
Okay. I found a brief blurb on Tolkien Gateway. The King of the Green Dozen is an incomplete story written by J.R.R. Tolkien. It is described as a pseudo-Celtic fairy story with a little satire. The story is set in Wales and is about the King of Iwerddon, 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 who, along with his sons, has green hair. Pearl was finished along with Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which we
Right,
we
we went through that.
Beautifully tragic, especially for fathers of little girls, I suspect. Welsh double D is TH. So that would be, so Wortham.
Wortham.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jeremiah. So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess we don't have to go in order. We could just kind of cover all of it. What do you want to do?
Yeah, just
Respond to questions and comments, or should we go through?
Yeah, well, let's go through it. So let's see. The first paragraph talking about Navy and the RAF and how hard they are on the kids. Christopher, looking forward to them coming back.
You can
It's
feel
really
it like
interesting.
So,
The
Chris,
burden put on Christopher, the connection. He clearly was the one given. It was kind of scary when he talked about the only copy of all this work. Several thoughts went through my head. One is, what if they had a fire or bombing or something like that? It would have been lost.
Yep.
And he might never have been able to restart.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if he nailed them with the only copy, and Bale losing things and everything else, so much could have been lost in the process. So that was interesting. But yeah, it's very interesting how symbiotic relationship it became with Christopher in the Lord of the Rings, especially, it sounds like.
so did Christopher and Chris Unwin get time to read
Oh, like maybe
the
he shared.
manuscript?
My dad wrote this latest
Yes.
chapter, and
Oh,
all the guys
yes.
around in the
Yeah, around in
And did Unwin then right?
Well, it seems like Christopher Tolkien did try to find somebody, because there weren't many guys who were as literate and educated as him. Yeah.
And I would imagine Unwin, being a publisher's son,
Mm-hmm.
probably was a bit literate.
So he was heading eventually soon on his way back to England. You almost feel like the war, in a broad global sense, is less important to Tolkien than his own son getting back home. He just wants, he wants him back.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it's
His
like.
right hand.
It's
Yes.
when you're in the middle of it, yes, there's these big, huge things going on, and you're very interested in it, but it's not academic. I mean, your son is in South Africa. He could die. You want him back. Some semblance of normal life to return.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen in the Eagle and Child pub in Oxford, and I think it was after the war is over, but it might have been before Christopher was shipped out in the 1940s, and it's Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien and a few of their friends. They signed a note, to the owner of the pub saying, "Hey, we compliment you on your fine establishment." So Christopher was part of the Inklings as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then he talks about after he gets over all the things that Christopher's done to help. Then he talks about his first bit, which is Leaf by Niggle. So let's take each of the things he comments on.
Mm-hmm.
I found it ironic that he said that Leaf by Niggle was the only one of his works that just kind of flowed out.
Yeah, the muses had him.
And yet the whole story is
It's
about
about niggling.
Yes!
And that is such an irony of all his other works.
Right.
The only time he didn't niggle was the PC Leaf by Niggle. That is a beautiful irony. That was very funny. But maybe that's why it was so inspired, because of how he has to niggle.
It describes
It's describing his frustration with everything else.
And that's something he can
He
tell
could
about.
relate to so readily, it would just
Yes.
come right out. It was just a total bearing of his maybe potential OCD or something.
Yes. And yet he had all these other ideas. Two others of that tone
Yeah.
and style remain mere budding leaves,
Mhm.
like that so many of silly Nichols.
I'm trying to remember if, since Chris has come on board, if we've ever read Leaf by Niggle and then discussed it.
I don't
We
think
did.
so, Chris. Did you? You were here for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I missed that. Okay, so the next one is Farmer Giles. Because the context is what else could I put together, or what else could they put together in a collection of short stories?
Which probably became the Tolkien reader.
And right, and Farmer Giles tended to be actually put together with Smith of Wood Major, because they're both more novellas almost.
Yeah.
Not really proper short stories. And then he mentions this wonderful King of the Green Dozen. So Jeremiah, I did a little research on that too in the past. It's still not published, and I believe that, like The Fall of Arthur, it remained in all the hundreds of boxes that Christopher Tolkien has of his father's notes.
So hurry up.
So it really, no, literally.
Is anybody taking the torch from Christopher? Is there any of his?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's such a huge, specific,
This is
very
now, right?
right. I mean, this is
So
a major
specialized.
thing, very
Yeah.
specialized. But really, it's Christopher sitting on it.
Yeah.
I mean, after all this time,
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose Christopher, in his defense, would say, look, the reason why I didn't put out The Fall of Arthur or anything else that my dad, had unfinished work is because, look, after I had all that work on the Silmarillion and published that in the 70s, then I began
Found all this other
the
stuff.
War of the Rings, all the
History of
the history of Middle-earth. Thank
Yeah.
you. So the history of Middle-earth books, he just finished, 2, 3, 4 years ago, the
Yeah.
last one.
12
And
books.
now he's finally
Yes.
starting
Getting
to
to his
work on
other
the
things.
smaller.
So there's a great hope that I have is that if he put out Fall of Arthur and he just put out
He did the
Beowulf.
Norse one. He did the
Sigurd and-
and Gudrun.
so that was the first one, then Sigurd and Gudrun, and then the Fall of Arthur,
Mhm.
and now has come out
He did go back and then do the amalgamation of the Baron of Luthien, Children of Hurin.
the Children of Hurin,
Yeah.
and then we've also got the Beowulf,
The Beowulf.
Tolkien's
Yeah.
translation of
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
So there's every reason to hope that perhaps he would consider publishing. I really hope so, because I would love to read King of the Green Dozen.
If he would stop speaking at all these different conferences and get to work. No, just
Yes.
like his dad.
Well, actually, he's
No,
somewhat
no,
inclusive, isn't
I,
he?
I think, yeah,
Oh,
I
you're
think he's being
teasing me.
ironic.
Teasing. Well, that's the funny thing is Tolkien is here so busy. He says, "I just want to write," and yet his duties, keep him from doing it. One wonders if he'd just been a writer, what could he have accomplished?
But he doesn't seem to have the creative side. He is an analytical organizer.
Oh, I see. Christopher, you mean?
Christopher is on that.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what, because I mean, as far as I know, Christopher's never written anything creative.
No, I think you're right. I think
He's
he
totally
understood his
scholarly.
father's mind well enough that he
Right.
could.
Amalgamate it.
Yep.
And fill in the blanks.
But he's
in
much
the
more of an
tone and
archivist.
style. Right. You could fill in the blanks in the tone and style of his father because he understood that, but he doesn't have the creativity, that part of
Not that same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different skill. And thank goodness for it, because otherwise we would never potentially ever see any of it.
Yeah.
So, and then of course he mentions the Silmarillion and wanting to publish that. But
Well, and the little asterisk about C.S. Lewis, so that was footnote
Yeah,
number
so what's that?
4. That is, this footnote carries no indication in the original letter as to which part of the text it refers to. Its placing here is therefore conjectural, so they don't know
I have a
what
guess.
part in C.S. Lewis he was
Do you have
talking
a
about.
guess?
I believe it's a science fiction trilogy, because he talks about in the science fiction trilogy,
Okay.
specifically if you read Out of the Silent Planet and Paralandra, it refers to the Eldilla, these angelic beings. And,
right.
there's a few words which I'd have to find the actual quote in line. Maybe Jeremiah can look it up if he wants. But so it's in the science fiction trilogy, and I think it's actually in probably at the very end of Out of the Silent Planet. But there's a quote basically that refers to not the Silmarils. I mean, he's not plagiarizing that baldly, but he's referring to what Tolkien and Lewis have been kicking around, and
Greatness in the past, some
Yeah.
evolving over time.
right. I mean, and remember that whole dare they each did, that
Oh,
Tolkien
right.
would write a
science
time.
fiction and he
Yep.
would write fantasy. Right.
Exactly. So this comes out of this whole idea that
Right.
that really this is only a few years after Lewis said, "I'll write a science fiction book if you about a different place if you write a time travel thing." And so and the time travel thing never really got finished.
Right.
So
Jeremiah says, I'd never realized when I was younger that Christopher was responsible for the maps, but Tolkien mentions Chris and the maps in the letters a few times. The map is hell, upcoming letter. So if we ever see it, then like the fall of Arthur, it will be a tantalizing glimpse of what could have been. I think it's not about the earlier piece, the pseudo-Celtic fairy.
The King of the Green Dozen.
Yes.
yes.
Okay. He also is reminding us, excitedly, Kullervo is coming out in August.
Ooh.
Sorry, August in the UK. But Amazon shows October for USA.
Oh, come on, stop it.
Kullervo was the Norse story which inspired Turin Turinbar.
I come back before August, so there's no way I can get a copy.
Well, it wasn't Norse, it was Finnish. Wasn't
Finnish?
it? Yeah. We read,
No, but
didn't we
we
read the whole
we
section
have
from the...
connections. We can get
Kalevala.
mailed over.
We could.
That's true.
But so is this, Jeremiah, refresh our memories, is this Tolkien's translation of, or
Translation
his
of
take
Kullervo?
on Kullervo? Because he was a Finnish scholar.
Yeah, well, I mean, and he said so let me finish what he says. So, Kullervo was the Norse story which inspired Turin Turinbar. I'm ashamed to say I've never read C.S. Lewis's sci-fi trilogy, but yes, Brian is right. I'll see if I can find it. Yes, finish my bad. Okay, right, so remember when a couple of years ago, we read through all of the Kullervo portion of the Kalevala.
Right.
And then we talked about it in depth in the comparisons to Turin Turenbach.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found was very interesting. Now keep in mind, the Kalevala is based on the sing-song Edda, which was the way they passed their traditions through Finland,
Sure. Yeah.
like Native Americans
Yeah.
do with their stories and like that. And luckily in the 1800s, a British anthropologist, although I'm not sure they had that term quite yet then, but they captured those stories and that became the Kalevala. And so we read through those stories, and so they are very repetitive and kind of hammer on the same things because they have these moral things. But part of the thing that was really dramatic is you don't feel sorry for Kalervo. He is a jerk. He deserves all the bad things that happen to him. There doesn't seem to be any redeeming qualities in this guy.
Very different.
He does terrible things to everybody,
Yep.
and terrible things happen to him, and then he whines and complains about all the bad things that happen
And
to
then he
him.
falls on a sword or whatever.
Right, and it's just like, okay, you're like, good riddance, right?
Yeah, right.
So then Tolkien writes Turenbar's tragic tale, and you can see the parallels. There are key events that happen, the dragons and the sister, and the incest because of all these things happening, and so he does clearly, and he was open about borrowing from that directly.
But he did.
But his story is
Yeah.
so much more interesting. You feel for the character.
Yeah.
You feel bad for him for the things that go wrong.
Right.
He may not always make the right decisions, but you can see how even a good person would make those mistakes under duress, and you feel upset about all the terrible things that happen in the tragedy.
Right.
Completely different. Now, I get it. With the Edda, it was meant to be a moral story to the kids. Don't behave this way or see the bad things that'll happen to you. Right? That's totally what they were for.
Right.
And so, it's hammering that in. But what a difference his rewrite did.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, let's see. Although he says, you do want to slap Turin when he insists on that bridge at Nargothrond. Gets his memory wiped and guys on everything go.
Right.
Yeah, hubris. Right?
Yes.
Pride goes before the fall. So.
But early on, when he takes the helm of Dor Lomin, it's just like incredible.
Yeah.
Isn't that Turin or is that?
No.
I'm thinking of the other. Okay, that's Hurin.
Yeah.
But he does wear a helm. What was Turin's famous helmet? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a great story. So anyway, we'll have to look into Kalervo. So Tolkien.
Turin wore the dragon helm of Dor Lomin. Oh, okay. What are you doing, Jeremiah?
Because Ulmo. You know what it was? I think that
handed it down.
Yeah, it was left behind by Turin or by Hurin, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Turin wore the dragon helm of Dor Lomin. Hurin couldn't wear it. He wasn't big enough. It came from Hurin.
Yep.
Okay.
And he left it behind in the city by the sea, like for 100 years.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool.
Right.
Always liked that part.
Yeah.
So, absolutely interesting, and there's already a lot of interest in Turin because of the other book that Christopher Tolkien put out, right? The Children of Hurin. So, I think
which 80% of that's already in the Silmarillion.
It is really,
but he just made a snapshot of just that portion of the arc,
right,
and cleaned it up a little. So, which is good.
Which is great. I mean, there's so much there in the Silmarillion that one wishes that Tolkien had expanded on. Not only Turin, not only, I'm thinking what else, we have a big expansion at Luthien and Beren, but there's other ones as well. Well, so the doom that comes upon Feanor's children because of the oath that they take, it's all so powerful. So anyway, all right, We've been talking about Silmarillion for a while here.
Right. Because that was
Yeah, it's
significant.
the Pearl. He refers to the Pearl and the death of his colleague.
Well, and again, he brings it up later about, well, maybe this should be put into the bit bucket of the Silmarillion.
Which is actually quite true because it didn't get published until after he died.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
What if Jackson had used the 5 parts instead of the 3?
As far as different
He
movies?
he was going to divide it in 5 parts.
See, and if he could have stayed
It would
on
be
the
interesting
story,
to see
I
whether
would have
those-
enjoyed more. I always said it should be at least 13 movies, in BBC style, but full-blown movies,
Yeah.
and focus more on the story and less. And that was always I was worried is he would, with knowing his original background in horror films and sensationalism and action, I was worried that he would go there. And he started out okay, but then his background went deviated more and more into the horror and video games.
Which is really too bad because
it is.
you look at it and you think, well, usually you'd see it the other way. This maturing director.
No, he went backwards.
Yeah.
He went totally backwards. Yeah.
And I think that's the danger anytime you create something is that you surround yourself with your version of it and you kind of forget to see
You
beyond.
get a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this letter shows how Tolkien is super busy with so many different things.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of different publishing companies.
Well, and all these other things that he said that he was in trouble, or is that a little later?
Yeah, that's right there. Yeah.
He's in trouble with this person and that person, and this obligation and that obligation.
I
And,
think trouble there is loosely. I mean, I think
well, but
it's like,
he
I've got stuff
committed to following through and hasn't in
so
multiple areas.
overcommitted.
Yeah. And that's hard.
And he has to take on a chair of the department.
Right. Yeah. He's not going to let up.
No.
He's drowning in a sea of his own making.
Well,
Hard to say no.
I'm not so sure. He's not blaming himself for the death of other people.
No, but he took on. He said he took these on, and then he's not living up to his duties.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The
British thing, duty.
Sure.
And so you.
And he has trouble saying no.
Exactly. Especially once
I never like that.
you could say no to a stranger, but these are friends or the widow of a friend.
Colleagues. Or
Yes,
whatever,
very
right.
strong sense of obligation,
Yeah.
which we can admire.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was interesting with
But
the
less so than in the British.
the French woman Deodin.
Yeah, I really don't know much about her.
And what do we know about the Encrin? So that was footnote
Well, actually,
6.
could you do footnote 5? I'm curious.
Okay.
Early English Text Society.
That.
This is an early version
So
of Evo.
let me just go through the footnotes for a minute.
Right.
So, is that right? Okay, so footnote number 1. A second cousin of Rainer Unwin, his real name was Harold. Number 2, Christopher Tolkien was never officially a pupil of his father, but he did receive some informal tuition from him during his years as an undergraduate, 42 to 43, before joining the RAF. Number 3, it is impossible to say what Tolkien had in mind. Okay, I need the reference. Which part was that referencing? Number 3
is 1 second.
2 others of tone and style merely budding leaves like so many silly nickels. So he says, it is impossible to say what Tolkien had in his mind. Perhaps he was alluding to the embryonic story referred to at the end of number 69. Let's get back to that. I suddenly got an idea for a new story about the length of Miggle in church yesterday, I fear. A man sitting at a high window and seeing not the fortunes of a man or of people, but of one small piece of land, about the size of a garden, all down the edges. He just sees it illumine in borders of mist, and things, animals, and men just walk on and off, and the plants and trees grow and die and change. One of the points would be that plants and animals change from one fantastic shape to another, but men, in spite of different dress, don't change at all. At intervals all down the ages, from Paleolithic to today, a couple of women or men would stroll across scene saying exactly the same thing, e.g., it oughtn't to be allowed. They ought to stop it. Or I said to her, I'm not one to make a fuss. I said, but, ... So that's what he had. So maybe he's going to guess at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, footnote number 4. Footnote carries no indication. Original, okay, that's the C.S. Lewis reference. It's still right. Footnote number 5. The Tolkien Desjardins edition of the Western Middle English manuscript Catherine, which was never completed. So that's another incomplete word.
Good grief. How many things did this man not finish?
Exactly.
I mean, they seem to outnumber the works he did.
Yeah. Tolkien's edition of the manuscript Ancrene Vis, not in fact completed until 1962.
Yes, I saw published dates for 63. There were other publishers for earlier though. It's like it got other people worked on it and they published theirs, but then Tolkien had to finally finish and publish his version of the same work.
Is it authoritative? I mean, do people tend to look at Tolkien's translation of it?
It's the most expensive one on.
Darn it.
It's reasonable. Some of the copies were.
Do they know who wrote it?
50
Or
or
is anonymous monks?
$70.
Who wrote the original? It sounds like a Saxon commentary on monastic orders.
Yeah, and the set of rules governing a monastery in general.
But it's fascinating that it's in Saxon, not in Latin, right? Because the church would tend to be written in Latin.
Language, yeah.
But this would be another example of homegrown,
Right.
Hey, let's describe.
Which would appeal to Tolkien.
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And number 7 footnote, BDST is British Daylight Saving Time.
Ah,
Have that discussion.
yes.
Jeremiah. So we was it 5 parts at the stage rather than 6 because he'd not quite finished book 6 yet?
That's a good point. Actually, I think he did.
Or did he end up splitting it off differently? I wonder.
That's
He says 4 completed, the last begun. So he obviously found a bit more to write and justified a 6th book.
Yes, I think that's what it is, because there are 6 overall and 2 in each one of the volumes, right? Which I wonder where he thought he was. So he thought he was going to wrap things up sooner, but that doesn't include.
Not that many times.
well, where does book 5 end?
Yeah.
With the ring being thrown into. No. I think it's where because Frodo's rescued from Shelob's lair.
Well, and here's
Return of the King.
perfect version to look it up, the
Show the
Millennium
camera. Show the
Edition,
camera.
where it has them in separate bindings. The Book of the Century, The Lord of the Rings, Millennium Edition.
And it actually has his name there as well, Tolkien, each letter, doesn't it?
Yes, it's
letters.
Tolkien, because it's the appendices and
Oh,
such.
the appendices. Okay, right. Very nice.
very.
So, which book? 6, 5? Which one are you asking about?
If
Number
I broke
5?
into Hawk's house.
What?
If I broke into Hawk's house, I'd be still in something that.
You know how many cameras and security things I have around here? And I'm heavily armed.
I was gonna say that's the set.
I
Right?
have several swords, several firearms, just so anybody knows.
Exactly. This is a heavily fortified.
And the security cameras are all internet based, so that if you steal
We
the
can hack
equipment, it's
into
still
them
out.
and turn them off.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck. Running on my controlled servers, but okay. If you can hack OpenBSD, go for it. All right, the end of book 5. The eagles are coming. The eagles are coming. For one moment more, Pippin's thought hovered. Bilbo, it said. But no, that came in his tale long, long ago. This is my tale, and it is ended now. Goodbye. and his thought fled far away, and his eyes saw no more.
So that's the end of book 5?
Yes.
What's the beginning? Would that be
Minas Tirith. So that was the Black Gate opens. That was the end of the Black Gate opens.
Right.
Minas Tirith is the beginning. Pippin looked out from the shelter of Gandalf's cloak. He wondered if he was awake or sleeping, so Gandalf's writing for him.
So it starts and ends with Pippin?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Never noticed that before.
Yeah.
So he probably thought, okay, book 5, Minas Tirith is going to finish up. He probably hadn't worked out completely the whole showdown in front of the Black Gate. He may have thought, hey, Frodo gets the ring into the cracks of doom,
And that's it.
and that's it. Versus
Right.
an additional kind of, face off at the Black Gate, maybe.
Book 5 ends with the Battle of Pelennor, I think. Millennium Mission. Ooh, Jerry want. Oh, the Black Gate. So it ends much further than I thought. Yeah, so we're...
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Jerry want, Jerry. Yeah, it was a birthday present from my mom or somebody.
Birthday presents, my
Precious, my
precious.
precious. Have you guys not seen this version before?
No.
I think
I always had it on my shelves,
Yeah.
so feel free to peruse. Or at least skim. We probably don't have time to
Yes, but he'll be
peruse.
counting the volumes before we leave. He'll be like, what the hey? It doesn't spell Tolkien anymore.
Excuse me while I get it. Would you like any water or anything? I think it's water.
I'm fine. Chris?
Chris?
I am well, thank you.
Jeremiah, can we get you a drink? Something?
It might take a while.
We'll send you an ice cube. It'll be melted by the time it gets to you.
Steward, many parties, homeward bound, scouring of the Shire.
Yes. By the way, I'm going to ask you, Jeremiah, if you have a favorite pub in the Warrington area. I've been to the Barley Mow once, downtown Warrington, but I've never been to Appleton. I know Appleton Thorn. Do they have? I think maybe an old pub down there. Grappenhall has a nice old pub. That's an old English pub. I like the old pubs with the wooden paneling and smoky interiors.
Jeremiah says, if it will be interesting to see in a future letter if he says something about the development of 5 and 6. Then he says, beer me. Well, I just gave you my...
I know, sorry. I
my,
left it. Yes. We had 2 Guinness,
Yeah.
2 bottles of Guinness, but Hawk passed it on to me, so they're at home in the fridge.
And regarding pubs in Warrington, I don't get out much, but yes, the Ram's Head is great in Grappenhall.
Yep, he knows which one I'm talking about. In fact, there's a little, very, very few people know this, but the old church in Grappenhall, which is St. Wilfrid's, I think, has a little carving on the wall outside of a cat. And Grappenhall is in Cheshire. And Lewis Carroll, who was Charles Dodge, whatever his name was, his father was a minister there or nearby. Anyway, so it is thought that the inspiration for the Cheshire cat comes from this cat, which is actually on this old church.
In the One Ring chat room, a little bit of a British political discussion going on about the changeover in Parliament.
Yeah.
So Puma says, so we shall see if Dem's alarm clock
The Lib Dems.
works, I guess, because they got slaughtered.
Yeah.
Work. And then it says, TMB says, Dems will be replaced by Jeremy Clarkson today. Top Gear. Free with inappropriate jokes and curls.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was following that too. Well,
anyways, interesting.
I kept thinking, I wonder if by the time we get to the UK, there won't be a United Kingdom anymore because of the Scottish referendum back several months ago. But
now we use Ireland to get free.
but 55% decided to stay in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. He said, don't worry, we'll find something. And then, yes, St. Wolf's.
It is. Okay. I don't know why that stuck in my mind after 9 years, but there it is. I don't know if we have time for another letter. Do you want to kind of conclude?
Yeah, I think we'll
Is it short
wrap up because actually it's a short one.
We could do.
You can read 99.
Or we could watch.
We have 11 minutes.
Or we could watch the VE Day little things if it
We have to be careful about streaming any.
Oh,
copyright
it's on
material.
YouTube though.
Yeah, but you can get into this permissions loop thing.
But British Pathé, they put out.
What is it? What is it that we'll be watching?
It'd be a documentary from the time. From 1945. It's so British Pathé puts out all of its stuff free, basically. It's like the newsreels that they play.
I'll just watch them later.
Okay, so they're on Tolkien Scholars page.
Yeah.
And it's 70 years since VE Day. So anyway,
You want to discuss that?
you can
Or do you want to read?
you can always turn the camera around. No, that's fine.
Okay.
I found
So
it very.
99?
Yes, I've just found it really fascinating the fact that Tolkien, between this letter and the next, you have the end of the war in Europe. It's still going on the Eastern Front, and he doesn't mention it at all, which I thought was really funny. But he's more interested in Christopher being back and all that. So anyway, yeah, I don't.
You want to borrow my
Can I
book?
read 99? I'll read it.
Okay.
To I don't know how to say her name. This is this widow. Mikal Williams, the widow of Charles Williams, letter 99, written on the day that Williams died following an operation. 15th of May, 1945. So this is about a week after the end of, VE Day. Dear Mrs. Williams, my heart goes out to you in sympathy, and I can say no more. I share a little in your loss, for in the far too brief years since I first met him, I had grown to admire and love your husband deeply, and I am more grieved than I can express. Later, if you find that there's anything in which I might be of service to you and your son, please tell me. Father Gervais Matthew is saying Mass at Blackfriars on Saturday at 8 a.m., and I shall serve him, but of course I shall have you in all my prayers immediately and continually, for such as they are worth. Forgive this, and I'm not sure what the next word is. You have forgive this hurried. End of 99. Forgive this
halting note.
halting note. Yours very sincerely, J.R.R. Tolkien. So, of course, Charles Williams was part of the Inklings and was the friend of Lewis that kind of drew Lewis a little bit away from Tolkien, not on purpose, but he kind of changed their friendship a little bit.
Anything else you want to comment on about that?
I have one of Charles Williams' books, but that's about it. I do know this, that Williams had an influence on Lewis's writing, where his Arthurian elements, like you see again in the science fiction trilogy, you see some weaving in of the Merlin Arthur story, a very kind of unique take on it, and the Fisher King, and some of those kind of medieval plot lines or whatever. So I guess Williams was the one who prompted that, or was interested in Arthurian stuff. But I don't think he had as much of an effect upon Tolkien as a writer, but probably just more as a friend who liked to talk about similar things, I'm guessing.
I do have a completely unrelated thing, but it's Tolkien based.
Sure.
Other Minds issue 15 came out. Other Minds magazine is a scholar for Tolkien, is a magazine for Tolkien enthusiasts and scholars and gamers. So it has both scholarly content and role-playing game content. Thomas, so I created it back in 04-05. Then Thomas Lewinsky from Germany came on board and started helping, and now he's pretty much running it. It's hosted on my servers and stuff, but he's keeping it going, and I'm there as a safety net if necessary, but luckily he's kept it going. So this is issue 15. It's been published, plus he just published some updates.
And that's at OMZ.
Othermindsmagazine.com or omzine.org or other-minds.com,
Right.
or through Facebook as well.
Okay.
So this time, besides the regular features, editorial, etc., there's 4 contributions. So editorial, ramblings from the front. Contribution, The Road Goes Ever On, what's out there in interesting Tolkien and Middle-earth related role-playing game stuff. Inside information, some info on things that concern the magazine. Middle-earth in Miniature, Chapter 1, Overview and Hobbits, discussion and presentation of miniatures made for Middle-earth throughout the years. Adapting Harp to Middle-earth for campaigns in the late Third Age 2945 onwards. Rules for using Iron Crown Enterprises Harp in Middle-earth. Settlements in Rovanian, companion article to the demographics of Rovanian in Other Minds 14. So that's not really gaming related, all the gamers would use that kind of stuff, but it's figuring out all the demographics and details, a lot of research. And then A Hope Unforeseen, Men of Druith Iar, Part 2, the second and concluding part of the great adventure begun in Elm 14.
Is that a campaign?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep, there's
So they put out their modules that people can
We
use.
do, because I mean, it is a community magazine. It's completely Creative Commons, freely, just attribution and share alike. And anybody is welcome to contribute. It goes through a whole vetting process. And artwork's been contributed by many artists. It's looking gorgeous now, and becoming on. Originally it was meant to be a quarterly zine, but we've never been able to keep up with our own personal lives and doing that, since some volunteer race is completely free. So it's been more like 2 issues a year since. We were quarterly at first when I was running it, but it's now about 2 issues a year. That's life with the volunteer run effort, but it's doing well. It's doing nice. And the last issue was a monster. I think it was like 300 something pages. I kept trying to tell them we should have broken that up into 3, 4, 5. Man, we would have material. We could have gone quarterly for 2 years without material, but that's how we wanted to do it. So.
And this one is how long?
I haven't read it yet, so
Okay, so
yeah.
Also, kind of thank you, Hawk, on that.
Actually, it's 166 pages.
So another note would be is that Cubicle 7 has released another module in the last month or two. What was it?
Let's see.
It's the horse. No, it's not the Horse Lords yet. It's the. Is it the
Rangers of the North?
Rangers of the North, I think.
So let me double check here.
It concerns the area to the northwest of Rivendell. So I'm assuming it would be the. No, we have one for Rivendell, don't we?
Yeah, we already have the Rivendell one already. Let's see. Here's their add-ons. Their website isn't always the easiest to look at all their add-ons. Okay, more supplements.
Girlfriend.
Okay, Tales from Riverland, Heart of the Wildland, Darkening, North Rivendell, Ruins of the North.
Campaign right now. I'm the War Master. So.
Ruins of the North.
The Ruins of the North.
That's the one.
And I think
6 standalone adventures west of the Misty Mountains.
Right. And so Ruins of the North, I think that might refer actually to Numinas and to the old kingdom.
Angmar.
Well, could be both.
The Witch King.
But I think because this is the module in which they put out the new race, the Rangers. Set,
of course, in the years prior to 2977, takes place in the lands surrounding Rivendell.
Which year?
Prior to 2977.
Oh.
Delve into the ruins of overgrown Fornost.
Walk. This is one of their middle gear ones.
Yes. Walk amidst the cairns of the Barrow Downs and venture to the lair of the Witch King of Angmar himself, the ancient city of Carndulin, if you have the courage. Written by Francesco Nepatello, Andrew Kenrick, Adam Diaz, James Brown, Richard, I imagine not the James Brown, Richard Harris, T.S. Lewicart, Marco Rafala, and James M. Spa.
Marco Rafala has done a lot of things with Batman.
Illustrated by John Hudson, Sam Manley, and Jeremy McHugh.
Oh, so no John Howe or anything like that.
Right, no, they've been using original new art for the whole series. Very kind of watercolor style.
I thought they used 1 or 2 of Howe's.
Did they?
For the Lake Town thing? I thought that Lake Town.
Was that how?
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not certain.
Okay.
So
well,
that's all.
Good.
Let's see, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he hasn't updated anything. Okay, and I'm checking chat room. So anything else we'd like to cover before we wrap up? Because it is 2:59 p.m. Pacific time. And our fellows in the UK, it's getting on the later side.
Yes, it is a bit late, so we should close for Jerry's sake.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, Jeremiah, and we didn't hear from Artemir and Halion, our Finnish friends, ethnic, I think they said they're ethnic Swedes, but in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
They made that important distinction some time ago. But they were, as far as I know, listening. I guess they're just enjoying the conversation. I don't know. But everybody who did tune in, thank you so much. And of course, we'll meet again the second Saturday of June. Are you still going to be in town? Or are you
I will if it's the second one.
So that would be the 13th of June.
Okay.
1 p.m. Pacific time. And did you guys like this setup?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, others did.
Others did, but I mean, you enjoy this,
Yeah.
the more, again, if we can get the other folks to show up. Any reason your daughter isn't coming anymore? Because that was nice when she made it. Is that just not
Busyness. Yeah. I mean, I left it up to her, but
Okay. See, that's my only concern about doing this is we don't get the walk-in people that we got, but at least everybody can hear.
yeah.
Meetup is getting. I wish some people would actually show up because people have been joining I created a meetup group for this organization, and and I just did it just like 2 months ago. 28 people have signed up so far.
Wow.
So I keep hoping somebody will actually come to besides Richard and yourselves and myself to actually hear or join us through. So hopefully it's just taking a little bit to get traction there, but those are all local to Spokane. That's the way the meetup things.
I still hope that someday we'll have some Whitworth students that will.
Yeah. Well, they've had an English teacher there who teaches like just a section on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Have you ever had any conversation or email?
I never, every time I tried to, we kept missing each other and such. When I had nannies here, they were students at Whitworth, and they kept telling me about this teacher who would teach Tolkien for a semester. And it was really rudimentary stuff, but it was interesting. One of my nannies, their whole family they were such Tolkien enthusiasts. Her parents did like a Hobbit wedding and everything. They did the whole works in California. So, okay, so that's right. So we're on TolkienScholars.org. We're on YouTube.com/TolkienScholars. We're under Tolkien Scholars under Facebook so my RPG research one, they finally attacked my account and said, you have to put your real name and blah, blah, blah. We blocked your account out. You have to associate with an account. So I've associated with my Mandarin Chinese account. Because I have determined they are not going to track everything I do. So, but I know I have RPG research as a separate entity. It has to be a page. And a page is useless compared to an entity. So, unfortunately, Tolkien Scholars is still under an entity, so that could happen at some point, and I'll have to stick it under some other account. But you lose all of your, and we have, you lose all your followers and everything else. They can be quite tricky about it. Because
who's doing this?
Facebook. This is the problem with Facebook is they want it to be all personal stuff. They don't want it to be organizations, businesses, or any entity. It has to be an individual. And then if you have an organization or something, you create a page. But a page has far less impact in social network than an entity.
Yes.
And so they can be really difficult about that whole thing. So we have 1,126 friends for our Tolkien Scholars account on Facebook. It's not bad. And under Twitter, also under Tolkien Scholars, we have 1,074 followers under Twitter. So it's not too bad. At least Twitter, that's not a problem. You can be whomever you want to be. It works out nicely. So, I've been over the years slowly doing the social network thing, but the main resource is the TolkienScholars.org website. And then Tolkien Moot is for the annual conventions. And then we're also on Google Plus and Reddit and everything. I try to keep up with. There's too many social networks out there now.
Yep.
So that's where you get updates. You can see all the previous videos, and I'm not sure what number this is. I think there's about 67 videos on our YouTube channel. Let's see, which is not too bad if I'm gonna log me out.
So Jeremiah, maybe we'll touch base later on and see if maybe we can connect when we get over there. And like I said, it'd be really great if I know I'm going to try to on the 19th of July join in via Google Hangout from the UK. So anyway, maybe you'll be able to do that as well.
He says
Is it a long word?
Is the longest word in the English language.
Pneumano ultramicroscopic silicon volcaniosis.
You got it.
Yep.
If you wanted me to say something else. Thanks, guys. I'd show up, just a bit of commute. Is it easiest to talk via email? Brian, you win big geek points, because you just did that off the top of your head. Well, he is a teacher, 4th grade teacher, so that's to be expected.
Yeah. Yes.
Email is, TolkienScholars at gmail.com. So all one word, TolkienScholars at gmail.com. Email is good. We have an email list for discussion and announcements. It's my own server, so there's no spamming, there's no selling your identity to communities. So if you want to join that, you have to use a non-Microsoft account, but you can join by sending list-subscribe at tolkienscholars.org. You get a reply email, reply to that is to verify you're real, and then after you'll get a response back saying you're now activated, and then you can post to list@tolkienscholars.org, and then everybody who's on there, you get, and it's a low traffic list, but we discuss upcoming meetings, any last minute changes. That's usually where I post first, is that email list, and then the website, and then the social networks.
I have not done
You haven't? So if I had forwarded that to you last night, you would know, or you just figuring you were having a meeting today? We've been pretty unpredictable lately.
Yeah. So that email list is where things get posted first, list@tolkienscholars.org, and then I update on the website, tolkienscholars.org, and then I replicate to the social networks.
Right.
So if you want the latest and greatest and the most up-to-date information, you'll want to join that list.
Good night, Jeremiah.
All right, thank you, everybody, and those of you who view this later recording, we welcome your comments, and we do answer them, and suggestions. What will we be reading next? Letters 100 plus. 100 plus.
Yeah, let's start with 100 and go from there.
Okay.
The summer of 1945.
Wonderful. All right, well, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Chris and Brian, for making it. And Richard, we're sorry you didn't make it. Hopefully we'll see you next month. And everybody, wherever you may be well. Namaria.
Namaria. Yeah, so we're 70 years behind. That's exactly kind of where he's at. He's in May of